Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome back to Elaborations with E. I'm your host, Ava, here as your guide and maybe your best friend, and someone who's going to be real with you about all of the magical, messy, and sometimes confusing stuff that life loves to throw at us. And specifically here on this podcast, we talk about spirituality in practical, grounded ways. Whether we're talking about manifestation, astrology, witchcraft, or even the laws of the universe. It's not just theories on this podcast, but things that we can actually use in our lives. And things that can help us to understand the inner workings of the universe and how we are all interconnected to it in ways that make sense. So today, we are diving into one of my favorite astrological topics, a cosmic phenomenon that takes place 3 times in our calendar year, and that is Mercury Retrograde. Now, I know, we're going to address the little elephant in the room first, because everyone has strong opinions about Mercury Retrograde. Some love it, some hate it, and some are completely indifferent. Some love to blame it for literally everything going topsy-turvy. And some try to ignore it completely as if it's not even there. But I'm here to tell you honestly, Mercury retrograde isn't chaos. It's not punishment. Mercury isn't trying to be out here spiraling your life out of control. But it does show you some things. It shows you the tricky stuff that we sometimes avoid. But before we get into the retrograde aspect of it, let's talk about Mercury itself. In astrology, Mercury is the planet that rules over communication, thought processes, technology, and travel. Basically, how we send and receive information, how we communicate, and how we connect to each other. It's the planet that highlights clarity, or the lack thereof, in our lives. So when Mercury is off, or when it seems to go a little backward, it's simply showing you the places where communication may have gotten a little messy, technology glitches happen a little more frequently, or travel gets complicated. But it's not making things break down. It's just pointing out what's already a little unsteady. And here's the part that confuses a lot of people. Mercury is not actually moving backward. It only appears that way because of our vantage point from Earth. Think about it like this. You're driving down the highway and you pass a slower car. For a second, it looks like that car is moving backward, right? But it's not. It's just an optical illusion caused by perspective. And that is exactly what a retrograde is. Nothing is actually reversing. Things just look a little different because of how we're observing them. And another scientific fact is that for our 365 days out of the year, Mercury only orbits the sun every 88 days. So when our orbital speed seems to surpass Mercury, that is what is helping to create that optical illusion that Mercury is going backwards due to what is called apparent retrograde motion. But really, we just sped up a little bit. And somewhere along the line, this Mercury retrograde got a cosmic reputation for messing everything up. Your text messages are glitching, Mercury retrograde. Emails aren't going through or coming through, Mercury retrograde. Technology fails and glitches all over the place. Mercury retrograde. You argued with a friend or a coworker or your parent or your boss. That was Mercury retrograde. We gotta go get Mercury out of the microwave. And one of my favorites. Exes or friends suddenly reappear out of the woodwork. That's definitely Mercury retrograde. We've all done it. We've all looked at the cosmos and blamed it for human chaos. And we've done it for aeons. And honestly, sometimes it's kind of funny how convenient it is. But the reality is, Mercury retrograde isn't causing problems. It's revealing them. It's shining a light on the cracks in our communication, the unprocessed feelings we may be holding on to, and the old patterns that we thought we were over. And that is something that I have experienced firsthand. Back in college, there was this person. I don't know. I thought they were maybe meant to be in my life in a big way. And at one point, I even convinced myself that he was some kind of twin flame connection. Yeah, super cringe, I know. Not every person that you have a romantic or sexual connection with is going to be a twin flame. But anyway, he had these obsessive and addictive patterns, especially around one other person. And he never really worked on that. He never really worked on himself, at least not from my perspective, and not even from what he told me. And eventually, I called him out on this behavior, and we had this big falling out and didn't speak for 3 years. Then, I guess during a retrograde, we reconnected. And I thought that maybe things might have changed. Maybe we can have a healthy connection now. I've grown as a person. I've had different experiences. I've gone through a little bit of a spiritual awakening. I was starting to look differently at the world and look differently at things. And I thought he was too. I thought maybe we're a little bit older. Maybe we're a little bit wiser. Spoiler alert, none of that was true. A lot of the same patterns started repeating. A lot of the same lack of self-awareness and accountability started happening in the both of us, especially because I noticed that being around that energy pulled me into unhealthy habits of my own that I had in my beginning years of college when I was in my early 20s. And I didn't like it. And I realized, maybe a little harshly, that reconnection wasn't about restarting a friendship. It was showing me very clearly why we weren't meant to stay connected and why we were meant to love each other maybe from a distance. Because at the end of the day, I still want the best for him, and I know somewhere, somehow, he wants the best for me. But we don't need to be in each other's orbit for that to be something. And then there is my most recent ex. And this one has a lot of layers. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I am going to give you the bread and butter of it. 8 months after we broke up, we were still talking. We both had this energy where we wanted to try to stay platonic. And then we tried again romantically. And it didn't last long, and honestly, it shouldn't have even happened in the first place. And I'm glad it didn't last long, because it would have dragged me right back into those same old patterns. We went our separate ways for a reason, and we stayed our separate ways for another whole year before we reached out to each other again. Recently, we tried to reconnect platonically, and in that short time frame, I realized exactly who he was. He still had the same inflated ego. He wasn't taking accountability for certain things. He was not really aligning with some of the beliefs that I had, and not to say that he needed to, but our beliefs and our opinions and ideas on things were just absolutely clashing. And the worst part was he disrespected someone that I care about deeply. And it was a clear no-nonsense moment for me. Another thing that really stood out about trying to reconnect with this person is how it would have impacted my healthy and loving relationship that I'm in now. And bottom line was, I didn't need to drag myself into being connected to someone else's energy when that person isn't genuine. That person has no respect for boundaries. That person holds no accountability for themselves. And that person isn't actually being authentic. They're just being the same person they always were, wrapped in different packaging. And I didn't need to blame Mercury Retrograde for this realization either. I just needed clarity. And that's exactly the gift of Mercury Retrograde. It shows you what is real and what is not, and it helps you to get to that space of clarity. So what do we do now that we understand Mercury Retrograde on a little bit of a deeper level? When Mercury Retrograde comes around 3 times a year, this is what it's asking us to do. First, slow down and think before you speak or act. Double check text messages, emails before they are sent, and double check plans even. 2, reflect instead of react. If something elicits a response in you that maybe is coming from a defensive place, pause and ask yourself, what is this showing me, and what is going to be the most probable outcome if I act from a place of reacting as opposed to responding? 3, revisit old patterns, projects, and relationships with awareness, not attachment. It's okay if that friendship doesn't heal itself. It's okay if forgiveness is there but reconciliation isn't. It's okay if you never see that person again. It's not okay to stay in places that aren't healthy for you. And number 4, always, always, always check in with your own thoughts, beliefs, and feelings, because they are always going to be the first form of communication. And your communication with yourself is always going to be the strongest form of communication that will get you through anything. If you don't have healthy communication with yourself, you're not going to be able to make the right decisions for yourself. Mercury Retrograde, again, however, is not here to punish you. It's here to point out where things aren't aligning so that you can adjust, clarify, and grow into the most amazing version of yourself that you can be. That's all I have for you today. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in. If you liked this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe to the podcast, and hit that notification icon so you never miss a future one. And be sure to tune in this Friday because we will be exploring Easter and Ostara, looking at their spiritual significance and how they both connect to growth, renewal, and intention setting. You can also connect with me on Instagram at elaborations.with.e. I would love to see you share this episode in your stories and tag me. I love seeing your posts and resharing them. Take care, and I will see you in Friday's episode. Bye!